This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffmann, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffmann, being joined by our new IARN intern, Ashtyn Jolly, student at Iowa State University. We'll be talking with her in just a moment here. Of course, today is Friday, the 6th of June, 81st anniversary of D-Day. So definitely make sure we're remembering those folks, those soldiers that did all that work for us back in 1944. But we're going to be kicking things off. You're talking with Ashtyn. She's our new intern here. And Ashtyn, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you're studying there at Iowa State, and kind of introduce yourself to our followers.
Sure. So my name's Ashtyn Jolly. I'm originally from Lancaster, Kansas, which is about 4.5 hours away from Ames. I'm a senior at Iowa State, and I'm currently studying animal science and agricultural communication, as well as a minor in meat science and a professional sales certificate. So a little bit of everything.
So what made you get into pursue the majors that you're and the minors that you're doing? Sure.
So I grew up showing goats and cattle, and I grew up in a small farm community. So I've always been really connected with agriculture. I've known since I was like 6 years old that I've wanted to do animal science. So that was a for sure thing. And then when I got to Iowa State and kind of started exploring my options and whatnot, I realized that I really like communication. I really love talking to people. So I decided to add on the agricultural communication major. For meat science, I was actually on the meat judging team my freshman year. So that was an experience that kind of influenced that decision. And then my professional sales certificate, once again, I like talking to people. I like kind of knowing a product and getting it sold. So that's kind of why I decided to add on my professional sales certificate.
All right. Well, this has been your first week, and you got your baptism by fire at World Pork Expo, and you'll be introducing your interview in just a moment. So you'll be seeing more from Ashtyn here as the summer goes on. And so, Ashtyn, you had a chance to conduct an interview at World Pork Expo. Tell us a bit about who your guest was and what you were talking about.
Sure. So I talked with Dan Halstrom of the U.S. Meat Export Federation, and we kind of talked about pork, specifically about trade and kind of getting into other countries with the pork carcass. So lots of fun things.
All right. We'll hear from Ashtyn right now.
Hi there, we're here at World Pork Expo 2025. I'm here with Dan Halstrom of the U.S. Meat Export Federation. How are you doing today, Dan?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. So we'll just jump right in if that works for you.
Sure.
Perfect. So a big thing in the pork industry right now is talks of trade. What does that kind of look like in your space?
Well, a little context. You look at the pork industry. Last year, we're coming off of a record year, both volume and value. We were over 3 million metric tons exported, a value of about $8.6 billion. Like I said, all-time record. First quarter of this year, we have stats through March. We're on the same pace on the pork side. Beef side, we had our third largest year last year, which, considering what's going on with the supply situation, we're pretty happy with that. So I think the bottom line is the demand is not only resilient, but it's record-breaking in some of these countries. And I think there's a lot of factors that contribute to that. But I think the biggest factor is the global appreciates our quality, our safety, all the eating experience, and I think we're really seeing that start to pay off.
Perfect. So you touched a little bit on the demand for these different countries and whatnot, and I know that a lot of things from the pork carcass aren't necessarily eaten in the United States, but there's a large demand for them in other countries. Can you kind of speak about kind of like what that looks like?
Yeah, pork's a good example. It's like a jigsaw puzzle where you're putting the right cut to the right market that fits culturally or, from a value standpoint. And, the value's in the eyes of the beholder, right? So for a good example is some of these pork variety meats. Of our 8.6 billion annually that's exported, 1.2 billion roughly is variety meat. So it's things like stomachs, tongues, front feet, hind feet, intestines, things like this. And in a lot of countries, that's center of the plate. It's not the pork loin, it's not the ham, it's center of the plate for these variety meats. So this is what helps to maximize the value. And it's the same thing on the beef side. One of the highest per pound products on the beef side that we export is beef tongue. And, if you sell a beef tongue in the U.S., it's probably $1 per pound or less. It's $12 a pound to Japan, just as an example. So you match it up culturally, and we can maximize the value.
Sure. So you talk about maximizing the value. So how exactly do you do that? What's the communication kind of look like kind of in that aspect?
Yeah, I think using the long-term lens, we have an international office infrastructure, about 105 employees outside the U.S. in 20 regions. So boots on the ground each and every day. Culturally, they speak the language, they know the culture, and they know the trade, right? So they want to develop relationships in the trade, and I think we're almost 50 years in existence now. So in a place like Japan and Mexico, we've been there almost 50 years, and the trade has been there as well. Our members, our exporters, the packers, et cetera. So I think like any business, relationships are key, and that's a big part of what we try to do.
Of course. So kind of outside of what we've already talked about, what are some other hot topics that you're kind of looking at?
Well, yeah, everyone's favorite word lately has been tariffs, right? So, I think, there's been a lot of talk, and really the main region of the world that's been impacted is China. But outside of China, it's relatively business as usual, at least so far. And we certainly hope it stays that way. China is a very important market, but we'll give you an example. On the pork side, we've gone from, roughly a 25% tariff to 176, and now we're back to 57. That kind of volatility in a 90-day period is really tough to develop these markets, and hopefully we can get some stability back. But demand is still good. I mean, despite the volatility, demand is still very, very good.
Of course, love to hear that. So if people want to kind of learn more about what we've talked about today, where can they find that information?
Yeah, you can go to our website, www.usmef.org, and we're based in Denver. We'd be happy to, anyone who wants to reach out, we'd be more than happy to talk to them.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Dan.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, thanks to Ashtyn for getting that interview with Dan Halstrom of U.S. Meat Export Federation. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break and hear from the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, we'll talk with the folks at agmarket.net to get the closing markets. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. We're back on Ag Matters PM here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and time to run down those closing markets. And for that, we're turning to Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net. Curt, looks like we had a little bit more positive momentum on those grains. Let's see what happened. Tell us what happened, I should say, in the corn and soybeans.
Yeah, we had it up Friday for a change, so we'll take it. Basically, corn was up 3 cents up front, 3/4 in the back. On the week, it was kind of a mixed bag. July corn was down 1.5, and December was up 10 3/4. The big news this week was spread activity. The bull spread just lost its momentum. The July D's corn spread was almost 14. It traded as much as -14. It was just a huge mover there of ideas that there's a little cash corn moving here. But it's kind of surprising because next week, WASDE report, they're expected to lower carryout a little bit due to better exports. So we'll look forward to that report. But this Thursday, we had a daily reversal up, so that'd be support here as we move into next week. Soybeans were up 6 cents on the day. On the week, they were up 10 to 16 cents. Technically, they had a good week. They had a weekly reversal to the upside. So once again, Monday, Tuesday's lows here earlier in the week is going to be fairly good support on the charts. Wheat was up 9 cents on the day. On the week, it was up 21 cents. So we had a good week, the Chicago wheat at least. I think we had a little help from the outside markets. The crude oil was higher. The Dow was higher. So a little optimism spilled into the gray market as we go into the weekend. Big thing is Russia, Ukraine. Who knows what, Sunday night, Monday morning, what price direction we're going to see according to what could happen over the next 2 days.
All right, well, then switching gears over to the livestock side of things, well, the last 2 days, the story's definitely been that cattle market. Cash trade has been really good, and the market's been kind of almost playing catch up the way it looks.
Oh boy, giddy up, gap, and go. It was unbelievable. Thursday there, it just didn't look back. Today, fast closed up 80 in the back, and up front, June up about 320. On the weekly chart, 650 to 1050 higher. It just remains fairly strong, trying to catch up here with the divergence of the difference between the cash and the future. So see if those come together here. On the hog side, they waited till today and kind of ground higher. Hogs up 90 to 230 on the daily. On the weekly chart, up $2 to $4. So we're going to be testing, see if these Junes can stay above 102 and maybe run up to 106. But the back end's just been kind of steady higher, just grinding higher in through here. So we're seeing some higher meat values. Hopefully guys can, on the feed side, get some cheaper feed needs here. And above all, they're just like the grain guys too. They're watching the weather forecast here and, trying to predict what type of crop we're going to have here over the next 3 to 4 months.
All right. Well, Curt, if folks want to talk with you guys at agmarket.net, kind of get some ideas of what they should be thinking about for some market strategies, or maybe even marketing this year's crop if they haven't finished that up yet, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Agmarket.net and go to Intel. That's where most of the news and research is, or else you can get calls here at 1-800-779-1515.
All right, Curt. Well, we thank you so much for the insight. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Very good. Have a good weekend.
And that, again, was a check of our closing markets from the folks at agmarket.net. Let's go ahead and take a look at the closing numbers now. You can find those on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network market screen. And that, again, was a check of our closing markets from the folks at agmarket.net. Let's go ahead and take a look at the closing numbers now. You can find those on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network market screen. And that is going to be the end of our closing market recap, and that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, X, and here on our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you can be notified each time we put out a new video project. Also, don't forget about our long-running Weekend Ag Matters program, heard Saturdays and Sundays through your Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliates, or also, again, under the podcast tab at iowaagnet.com. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Hoffmann. For Mark Magnuson, Riley Smith, Andy Peterson, and Ashtyn Jolly, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.